And then here we are, the gargantuan Jupiter, the big brother of all the planets. Jupiter is humongous. It has more than 2.5 times the mass of all the other planets combined. And just to give you an idea of the scales that are involved here, Jupiter is still only a thousandth the mass of the Sun, which means that 1,000 Jupiters would still barely be able to give the mass of the Sun. Truly mind-blowing, the scale of things. Now this actually is Jupiter's North Pole. Jupiter from the side looks like this. Many of us might be familiar with this. The bands of moving clouds. By the way, these clouds, they move at different speeds, and their speeds are different than the planet itself, which means that a day on this planet might not even be definable because the clouds rotate at different speeds, and so one cloud layer might complete a day faster than the others. That's quite interesting. Jupiter also has these very interesting storms on its surface. Look, and they're almost everywhere. But the one that we all know most famously, of course, is the Great Red Spot, right here. It's about to go into darkness, but it is still there. The darker a storm is, the more fierce it is, as the general observation at least. However, Jupiter, and as we'll see, other gas giant planets don't really have a surface, so there's no rain happening inside. The rain is at least not falling on anything. It may happen. The reason they don't have a surface is because, well, they're made up of gas. They're literally large balloons holding themselves together. The surface is more like this. There's gas on top and there's gas on bottom. However, as we go deeper and deeper, the pressure increases and that gas liquefies and solidifies into a core. But other than that, no surface to be seen. I quite like the poles of Jupiter. They look really, really nice because of the storms meeting together and the different layers all mixing up to create these. Now, there's something else that Jupiter is famous for, besides itself. And if I'll turn on the orbits, you'll see. Of course, Jupiter is famous for its moons. Tens of them. But the main moons are these four ones highlighted in yellow. These are called the Galilean moons. They're called so because the famous astronomer Galileo observed all of these together and discovered them one after the other. He also discovered Jupiter. Now, let's talk a little about these moons, shall we? Jupiter's moons are some of the largest moons out there. One of its moons, Ganymede, is larger than Mercury and is also the largest moon in the solar system. And the other of these Galilean moons are not far off. Let's take a look at them one by one. First up, we have Io. Now, Io is a very interesting object. As you can see, even if I go back, there's some glowing happening over here. Well, these red spots are volcanoes, of course, lava pits. What's most fascinating about these is the fact that this is the only place apart from Earth where we have observed lava flows happen. On Venus they may happen, but we don't really know of them. Look at that. And it's all over the place. Io erupts a lot of volcanic material that forms a thick but almost invisible belt around Jupiter. Yes, you heard that right. Jupiter does indeed have rings. but they're too dark to be seen normally. Once we're done with Io, let's take a look at the next moon. Now this is a really interesting one. This is the beautiful Europa. Now, from the surface, Europa looks like a scratched little ball. And that would be true. See, in Jupiter's system, there's a lot of gravitational tugging and pulling because of all of these large, heavy moons present, and Jupiter itself, of course. This causes cracks to appear on the surface because the planet is literally stretched like a gumball and then pulled back into its position. But the real reason Europa has these cracks and not other moons is because of its surface. Europa's surface is icy, completely icy, and inside of it there's an ocean. It's like I made a ball out of water and then covered it with an ice shell. That is essentially Europa. Because of the gravitational effects, Europa's interior is heating up, and scientists think at least, that inside of Europa's dark undersurface oceans, there could actually be life. Life that has never seen the sun, life that lives in that ocean forever. That would be really something to find, wouldn't it? And that's the reason I really like Europa. An ocean below the surface that has more water than the Earth. Quite something to think about. However, Europa does receive a huge dose of radiation because its parent, Jupiter, right there, is an extremely strong planet, and it spews out huge amounts of radiation that are just contaminating everything out there. That doesn't mean life couldn't flourish. It just means that our kind of life will find it hard. Next of the Galilean moons, we'll see a nice little planet. And I said planet by mistake because of its size. This is Ganymede, the largest moon in our solar system. It has a radius of 2600 kilometers. It's larger than Mercury, larger than Pluto, larger than Ceres. It is huge. Ganymede is a cratered little rock, to be honest. However, it also suggests an interesting possibility. See, it lies just in the right position to receive the highest amount of sunlight that any of these moons do. Which means that sometime, if humans decide to go out here, maybe we'll use this as a farm. Who knows? Farms on Ganymede. Sounds funny right now, doesn't it? Well, after the largest moon in the solar system, we'll go and see a rather rocky moon. This is Callisto. Now, Callisto always reminds me of our own moon, Luna. Because of its cratered and rocky surface, it almost looks like someone copy-pasted our moon there, only larger. Callisto is beautiful to look at though. The colors are mesmerizing, and from the far, all four of those moons, along with Jupiter, are really nice to look at. Now, all five of these objects, Jupiter and its four Galilean moons, are observable from the Earth using even simple telescopes. That's the reason Galileo discovered it in his time. Other Jovian moons are smaller and very hard to see. Hardly any of them were discovered before the invention of high-power telescopes. But that's really all about the Jovian system. Next, we'll be taking a look at arguably the most beautiful planets in our solar system.